the amazing Michelle Payne. She won the Melbourne Cup in 2015. This was the first female jockey in the Cup's 155-year history to win the Cup on Pirates of Penzance. Let's cast our memories back and take a look at Michelle Payne coming down the straight.
Followed then by Who Shot the Barman, going for a run on the inside is our Ivanhoe. Coming past the 300 metres, Excess Knowledge went to the lead narrowly. Here's Prince of Penzance coming on down the outside. Prince of Penzance from Michelle Payne. Now Max Dynamite starts to charge home. Prince of Penzance from Max Dynamite. Prince of Penzance, it's history at Flemington, Michelle Payne. Prince of Penzance beat Max Dynamite. Criterions run third, then either trip to Paris Gust of Wind or...
Oh, it still gives me chills. History made at Flemington, doesn't it? I mean, where were you when that moment happened? Like Michelle Payne winning the Cup as a female in the industry. Like, what impact did that have on you? And I guess over the last couple of years, speaking to other women, what impact has it had on them within the industry?
You know, it's funny. I was only just speaking to someone this morning, our apprentice jockey, Rosie, and you know, she's a young female, 21 years old, who has decided to embark on the path of becoming a jockey, and she's just started her apprenticeship. But we were actually speaking about, you know, female jockeys and their role in these big races coming up throughout the carnival. And we were talking about Michelle Payne, and she was telling me that she specifically remembers being at school that day, and everyone was sort of like, oh, who are you going for in the Cup? And she said, oh, well, the girl, of course. And she asked her dad, she said, Dad, you've got to have money. There's a girl riding in the Cup. And I mean, Prince of Penzance was 100 to 1 that day. It was massive, massive odds. And so she told her dad, make sure you have something on. And sure enough, history has it that Michelle would go on to win the Cup. And she'd come home from school and say to her dad, well, did you put it on? And he said, no, I didn't. So he never put the bet on Prince of Penzance. She's never let him live it. But hear her, she's now gone on to forge a path to become a jockey. I think you can't underestimate what a moment like that does to sort of change the pathway for people going forward. And even furthermore to that is probably the movie that then came out, Ride Like a Girl. I think Rachel Griffiths did such a great job to portray the whole story and the struggles that Michelle had been through, and you know, being a female in the industry, and then that culminating in this big success. There are so many little girls who I think will now grow up and watch that movie. And already I speak to a lot of girls on the mounting yard, on their fence, and they come up and they say, have you seen Ride Like a Girl? Like, it's my favorite movie. And I think that's really special that they have something that they can look at, that they can, you know, aspire to be.
So it's so important, isn't it? And I think we sort of take that part, I guess, a little bit for granted at the moment, because we are sort of having a bit more of an open discussion about these things. Those pathways are opening up, but it's only because of these trailblazers that have really forged that path for us. And I mean, I guess when we talk about female jockeys now, I mean, Jamie Carr, Rachel King, Kira Yule, I mean, the list goes on. They are flying at the moment, Jamie Carr in particular. And I think, you know, how do you sort of find that? Because you're around these racetracks all the time. What's the future of the industry looking like? Are there more females popping up and deciding to take on this path in the racing industry?
It's quite amazing, particularly at the country tracks. So when I cover the meetings there's obviously two sets of change rooms. You've got the boys and the girls, and one's always bigger than the other. And these days what's happening is that obviously the boys' change room was always the big one, and the girls' change room is just a small one for the couple girls that were there. And now it's completely changed where they're swapping, because it's almost all female at these meetings and then only a couple of boys. So they're actually, you know, swapping change rooms at a lot of these provincial country sort of meetings. So you can see that shift there. I think you only have to look at the apprentice school intake, and a lot of that is females coming through. And it makes sense. Females biologically are lighter. It's a hard slog being a jockey. They have to do a lot of work in terms of their dieting and keeping their weight down to 54 kilos. Like, that is not an easy task for a female, let alone, you know, a big guy. So I think we're seeing a lot more girls come through because of that. And at grassroots level, Pony Club, there's a lot more females doing that as well. So it makes sense that they then forge the path into a career out of riding horses.
Yeah, and I mean, look, speaking of history being made, last year, 2019, you made your own history. You was selected to be the first female horseback reporter for the Melbourne Cup for the Channel 10 coverage. You were the first one to speak to Craig Williams, one of Australia's most esteemed jockeys, after his ride on Vow and Declare. That is huge, Britt. Like, did that sink in at the time, what a huge accolade that actually was?
I think yes, and there's two parts to this, I guess. The female part, maybe not so much. I heard Rachel King during the week actually speaking to this sort of point where she said, you know, she's about to become the first female to ride in the Everest. And she said she doesn't like to dwell too much on the fact that it's a male-female thing, because at the end of the day, once those gates open, they're on a level playing field. It doesn't matter whether she's male or female. And I guess that's the whole thing of equality, is probably not wanting to draw upon that. But then at the same time, she said she's happy to be a part of that history. She's happy that she's the first one, and that's her name in the record books, and it's something that she can tell her kids and grandkids. And by that same sort of logic, that's, I guess, how I felt as well. It's I was really proud to do the role and have the responsibility of being able to tell the story of the Cup winner and all the great tales throughout that week by being the first person to go and speak to the jockey, because of the enormity of that moment for them. Not necessarily because I was the first female or anything like that, but I was just really proud to do the role full stop, because I guess when you're growing up in setting goals in anything, the Melbourne Cup is the pinnacle of racing. So if you're a jockey, you want to ride a Melbourne Cup winner, and if you're a trainer, you want to train a Melbourne Cup winner. But I guess as a broadcaster, you want to reach the top in broadcast, and that would be to be part of a Melbourne Cup coverage. And